Memory. Our memory is something we all treasure. Would you agree with that? Well, dementia is one of the greatest fears of many people. And for many families, it's not this abstract medical term, but it's a painful reality. And many of you in this room have loved ones that have been diagnosed, or you have had someone in your past who's been diagnosed with dementia. And here's what else I know: some of you have been diagnosed in the very early stages of dementia. Well, this is a hard journey. But in the middle of that reality, there have been some neurologists that are doing wonderful research, wonderful work on this topic. And y'all know I love a good neurologist. I love a good book to read and podcast to watch, and I love to listen to what they have done and the research. And so the latest ones I have found are Doctors Dean and Ayesha Sherzai. Well, they offer this wonderful message of hope. Brain health is shaped to a meaningful degree by the choices that we make every day. So they've dedicated their lives to combating the global dementia crisis using the latest science. So their research challenges this idea that cognitive decline is just a matter of bad luck, it's just going to happen to you, or that it's a matter of strictly family history. Now, we need to keep in mind genetics is really important here. It's very important. But they also emphasize that our lifestyle is very important to protect our memory and to support long-term brain resilience. And so I want full disclosure here. I'm not an expert on dementia. I'm not an expert on the treatment of it or the diagnosis. My doctorate is in education, learning, and leadership. It's not in medicine. It is certainly not in neuroscience. So what I'm sharing with you is based on a lot of research and study that I have done, and I've been encouraged by, and I've become very proactive in my own life. Because my mother was diagnosed with dementia, and I saw the effect that it had on her. And so I have just done this deep dive, and I want to share with you some information. So first of all, let's look at the big category of dementia. Dementia is this umbrella category of a group of types of dementia. Well, the biggest category is the one we all have heard about. It's Alzheimer's. It is 60 to 70% of all dementias. And there are others you may have heard of: Lewy body dementia, or frontal temporal, or vascular, or Parkinson's dementia, or Huntington's dementia. So dementia covers a wide range of symptoms. It's on a spectrum. And neurologists say while there is a diagnosis, there is still a lot of good news. You can dramatically reduce the risk of dementia. But you may say, but my parents had it. But what the research says is that genes do not have to be deterministic. What they show us in the research is that how we interact in our world and in our environment determines to a great degree the outcome when it comes to our brain health. So if you are in the early stages, or your loved one is, there is good news. This is staggering data that I'm getting ready to tell you. 90% of Alzheimer's can potentially be avoided with 5 simple lifestyle changes. 90%. So the doctors, Sherzai, developed, based on their research, 5 practices that can help reduce your risk. And they used it in this acronym NEURO: nutrition, exercise, unwind, restore, and optimize. They say that gives us a practical path forward, and it's just one habit at a time. Now, about our brain, do you know that our brain has, within this tiny little part of our body, 87 billion neurons? Those neurons connect with each other. They connect, they cluster, or they connect with just one other. That is a lot of neurons. We can control that connection to a great degree. The more that these connections are strengthened and utilized, the more resilient the brain becomes. So we want to be a part of connecting the neurons in our brain. So this plan that they've come up with promotes a lot of mental engagement, social engagement, because what it does is it enhances our cognitive abilities. It ensures us that there's a lot of buffer in the brain, a lot of reserve, a reservoir, so we can draw on that when we get damaged in some way or we have a lot of stress going on. We want to have a lot of reserve in our brain power. So let's look at the 5. We begin with nutrition because it's one of the most immediate daily ways that we can care for the brain. So, nutrition. Every meal can build or degrade the brain. Oh dear, did anybody just say ugh with that one? What did we just do with our scones and sweets? I don't know, but okay, we can do better at lunch and dinner, can't we? Well, they emphasize that what we eat affects inflammation, blood flow, and memory resilience. So, what they recommend is a Mediterranean style of eating. It's a pattern that includes these things: whole grains and seeds and nuts and vegetables and legumes. It limits refined carbs and it limits sugar. And instead of eating highly processed food, which contributes to cognitive decline, they encourage lots of fatty fish, salad with beans and quinoa and walnuts and olive oil. And here's what the research shows: a 53% reduction of Alzheimer's with a diet that looks like the Mediterranean diet or a gut-friendly diet. Staggering that what we eat affects our brain in that way. Well, the Bible confirms that whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, we need to do it for the glory of God because He gave us this body to care for. Well, the second in the acronym is exercise. Now, exercise is important for ensuring that we get adequate oxygen and nutrient delivery. So, exercise is what moves that around in our body, the oxygen. It moves it around to the brain. And exercise has great anti inflammatory benefits. It stimulates an increase in this brain peptide. And that peptide is often called miracle grow for the brain. So exercise is fertilizer for the brain. Think about this. The brain is vascular. So exercise goes into the brain and it affects the infrastructure of the brain, how it looks. It affects the hormones and the chemicals in the brain. And the best exercise for our body, it may surprise you. It is leg exercises. Think about it. Leg exercises, when we're moving our legs, it is stimulating the blood flow that goes all the way through the body and through the brain. We must keep our legs strong, ladies. We need to walk. We need to move to whatever degree we're able. We need to, because when our legs begin to go, the rest is inevitable. Here's one study showed that people who did leg exercise reduced the chance of progression from pre-dementia to dementia by more than 30%. So they build muscles in the legs when we move our legs. and it activates those muscles. We can activate them in just a few steps. We can do squats or we can do lunges. If that is fearful for you and you're afraid you'll lose your balance, sit in a chair and move those legs up and down. And that's a very safe way to keep your legs strong. Sit and stand repeatedly. Hold on to something if you need to, or do as I do. I do rebounding. That means I jump on a small trampoline, and those leg exercises are so good for me. Do you know that one study showed that in just 10 minutes of doing rebounding is equal to 30 minutes of walking? And it's a powerful, very fun exercise to do. I do it most days for 20 minutes. I usually watch a podcast, something fun or educational, whatever I'm in the mood for. It's a wonderful way to get leg exercise. And the Bible confirms that our body is a temple. And we need to honor God by moving this temple around every day. The third is unwind. Oh, I think we all agree life is very stressful, isn't it? We're all under a lot of stress. And if you're a chronic worrier and you don't deal with it appropriately, then you really have a big need to unwind. Our feelings, our emotions affect us physically. Stress and the stress hormone, cortisol. When we get stressed, we build up cortisol in our body. That has a damaging effect on not just our body, our physical body, but just also on our brain. And sadly, this is hard to hear, but here's what stress, chronic worrying, living in constant stress does. It shrinks our brain. It literally shrinks the brain. It causes inflammation. It affects our gut. It can give us insulin resistance. It can give us blood pressure, high blood pressure. And so all of those things mean that we need to find a way to unwind. There are many ways to de-stress: prayer, meditation, yoga. Kim Davis has taught us all about Tai Chi. We're going to be doing that some this summer as well. Listening to music, having a quiet walk, doing journaling, spending time in nature, and mindful breathing every day is important to de-stress. Every morning, begin that day with deep breathing, because here's what it does. The physiology of deep breathing means that we breathe in deeply through our nose. We bring all that air up into our nose. We hold it, and then we blow it out very slowly, like blowing through a straw. And when we do that, it helps our brain, the blood flow in our brain, to do a reset. If we've been very emotional, it helps us to reset our brain so that the prefrontal cortex, where we do our reasoning, is able to help us reason, instead of the amygdala, which is the center for our emotions, overriding our ability to reason. Begin your day with your time of meditation and prayer and Bible reading and deep breathing. We can use the box breathing pattern. I've given you that one. The idea is you breathe in deeply, you hold it, and then you breathe out like blowing through a straw. Well, the Sherzais point out that ongoing stress is going to damage the brain. That really is a wake-up call. So we need to practice everyday unwinding. The Bible confirms that we need to take our anxieties to God. We need to be still with God. And we need to trust Him. Well, the fourth is restore. Now, restore refers to having adequate restorative sleep. Deep sleep is the most dynamic and active stage of our brain. Think about that. When we're asleep, our brain is the most active. It's not the most active in the daytime when we're thinking and walking and speaking and doing. It's when we're asleep. So during deep sleep is when our brain reorganizes and cleans itself out. If we don't ever get to that stage in our sleep, guess what happens? Our brain begins to shrink. We lose concentration. We lose focus and attention. It affects our mood, and it's an increased risk for stroke. It's also very important on this one. It's during sleep that the beta amyloid plaque, which is part of the pathology, the makeup of Alzheimer's, is broken down in sleep. Think about that. The beta amyloid plaque breaks down in restorative sleep. So we want a good night's sleep. It's like a nighttime janitor who's at work in a building. He's cleaning up, he's cleaning the floors, he's cleaning the walls. She is taking all the trash and putting it in different dispensers, disposing of it. And this is what's happening in our brain. All of the things are getting cleaned out. The fluid goes through the brain and cleans it out, and it puts it in order in file cabinets. And it stores it in the hippocampus back here, and that's where our long-term memories are stored. We need sleep. So if we don't get sleep because of whatever reason, we've had too much caffeine, too much alcohol, we're restless, our mind is wondering, it's too hot, it's too cold, whatever, that affects it. So first thing we do is to identify what's keeping us up. Is it the foods we're eating? Is it we haven't controlled the temperature in the room? Is it too light? Are our thoughts running away? Have we had the screens on too long? We need to figure that out and get a handle on it. The bottom line is we need 7 to 8 hours of restorative sleep for our brain health. The Bible confirms this. God gives sleep to those he loves. And some are saying he doesn't love me enough. I'm not getting it. We need to figure it out. Jesus did it, as Lori shared with us. Jesus knew how to rest and meditate, and he was a good model for us. The last one is optimize. This refers to feeding the brain social and multimodal activities to challenge and engage, get this, multiple brain centers. So we want to do challenging activities because that helps create that reservoir, that reserve that will help us be resilient in our brain. Now, there are some fun and quick things to do, and I do those. I do Wordle. Anybody do Wordle every day? Oh, good, I have some Wordle friends in here. Anybody do Minute Cryptic? Do I have a Minute Cryptic friend in the house? Not a soul. I don't speak cryptic language. It's just going to be real words. But cryptic language is hard to decipher. And so I have a friend who got me on that, and I do that every day. Some of you do Sudoku. Got some math people here who do that, crosswords. Those are all really good for us, but that's just the beginning because what we want is to optimize. Optimizing involves complex behaviors that are real life activities that engage multiple domains in the brain. Now, examples are dancing, studying for something, to take a certification or to pass a test of some sort, learning a new language, learning a new instrument, learning to dance, learning to play songs and to sing something, a new instrument, leading a group or a team of people. I got some experience with that. Playing bridge or chess or mahjong. See, we're helping our brain now, ladies. The Sherzais also say that volunteering is a very good thing for the brain because we're meeting new people. We're doing something frequently, engaging with people where our mind and brain are having to adjust to a lot of different things that's good for our brain. Optimize means undertaking complex activities that challenge multiple functions and therefore result in increased cognitive reserve. Now, let me give you an example. I had no idea Rhonda was going to talk about my playing the piano. Listen, this is completely overstated today about my playing the piano. But I'm not really that good, but I love to practice. I love to play the piano. I do it multiple times a week. And so let me tell you what is happening in my brain when I do that. Here's a model of a brain. And I'm going to be describing things all over. Every one of those gets activated when I'm reading the notes. That's the left parietal lobe. It's the language center. I'm moving my fingers across the keyboard. That's the visual cortex, a sensory cortex. I'm mentally processing what I am doing. That's the frontal lobe. I'm listening for pitch and rhythm. That's the auditory cortex, the temporal lobe. I'm reading sheet music and tracking patterns in the notes that I'm playing. That's the occipital lobe. I'm paying attention. I'm sequencing. I'm timing. That's the prefrontal cortex. I'm working on memory. I may have to play those chords again, and I'm trying to remember those. That's the hippocampus. I'm creative and emotionally engaged. That's the amygdala. My emotional center is getting hit with some dopamine. I'm feeling rewarded for my hard work. That's the nucleus accumbens. And my right and left side of the brain work together. That's the corpus callosum. See, playing music helps the left brain and the right brain talk to itself. The one activity, playing the piano, practicing the piano, or engaging in anything that uses multiple modals in our brain, gives us a happy brain. My brain is happy when I'm doing something like that. And if I sing while I'm trying to play, oh, what a happy brain I have. So, frequently feeding the brain with social and multimodal activities is so important. Are you doing that? Well, what happens to our brain when we endlessly scroll social media and we're only looking at information? What happens when we sit on our comfy chair and we watch TV show after TV show and we're not engaging our brain? Not much good is happening. It's relaxing for a while. I love to binge a good show. I love to watch some streaming shows. I'm all about Dancing with the Stars and watching American Idol. I love those things, and that is good for us. But endlessly doing only those, we may be damaging our brain. Well, a final and I think most important way to put a lot of these together is that we can both unwind and optimize when we spend time in deep prayer and meditation and reading and deep thinking on a regular daily basis. And the Bible confirms that when we optimize, what we're doing is we're transforming our lives by spending time doing the deep, hard work and getting connected to God all at the same time. You know, your memory is worth protecting, and small daily choices matter. So, my challenge to you today is to choose one small change, one small thing to do that's going to make a big difference in your brain health. How about that? I hope this is helpful. I hope you'll take to heart a lot of these and take it to your brain. Thank you.